Welcome to the Quick Time Event Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Josh, and as always, I am joined by my partner in crime, John.
Accumulator of things.
The Quick Time Event Podcast is a chance for John and I to get together each and every week to talk about all of the nerdy things that we love. If you like what you hear, you can find us live on twitch.tv/QTE Plays every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, or...
Oh my God, are you okay?
I took in too much air at once, apparently. Or on all of your favorite podcast services all across the internet shortly after the live show ends. It's a Tuesday. It's not a Thursday. Spoiler alert. We missed last week because John was sleepy. John was a sleepy boy.
It was not good.
And so we rescheduled for today. And the reason we're doing it Tuesday is because there was too much shit to talk about last week. I didn't want to leave it hanging for a full 2 weeks. We needed to talk about stuff that happened last week. So we pushed the podcast to Tuesday. Quick Time Event Plays Persona 4 Golden's going to be on Thursday. 12-hour Overwatch stream for Extra Life on Saturday.
Lots of us. Lots of you and me.
And I might as well talk about it now, even more of me over the next really 2 weeks, because the following weekend is Extra Life United. I am participating in the Fall Guys tournament for Extra Life United for a chance to win up to $5,000 for our Extra Life goal. I have more news about...
Have you been getting reps in, getting practice?
A few, yeah. Okay. Some of the season, what is it, season 4 now?
I don't know. I
because
lost track after the ice season.
Season 2 was medieval. No, season 3 was the ice season, and now we're in like cyberpunk. Now it's like 80s.
Oh, that's right. I saw that they ripped off our color scheme.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So
which we branded, not the not the era,
right?
And Miami, and where it came from.
Yeah, exactly. It was all us.
Yeah.
Anyway, some of those are fucking hard. There's this race one where it's like you're on a track, but they're all like you're on a track. But this one more than the other ones. The race is like almost like a Mario Kart kind of race. Like that's the kind of track that it is.
Oh,
and it's insane. It's insane. You have to do laps. Yeah, you have to do like 3 laps around it.
God, they're getting a little full of themselves.
Well, I mean, it's only going to get worse because Epic bought them. So,
Yeah.
Lots of money going in there. And we'll talk about that in a little bit even, I think. But anyway.
Pump them full of cash.
Back to Extra Life. Extra Life United is on Saturday the 24th. Next week I'm streaming so much. So 12 hours. Okay, so here's the schedule, the stream schedule for the next 2 weeks. Today, podcast. Thursday, yes. Persona 4 Golden. Saturday, 12 hours of Overwatch. Sunday night, Fall Guys. 8 to midnight. 4 hours of Fall Guys.
That's when you're practicing, or wait, was
that? Yeah.
Okay.
So Sunday the 18th, I guess, is going to be Fall Guys, and then Tuesday Persona 4, Wednesday more Fall Guys, Thursday podcast, Saturday Extra Life United. If I do well on Saturday, also Sunday Extra Life United. So there's a lot of Fall Guys coming. I did also find out how that tournament works. So I was curious about this. There have been instances where people high profile streamers have gotten private Fall Guys, private Fall Guys lobbies, essentially.
Oh,
That's not what this is going to be. So the way that I have to do this is I just queue up solo for 3 hours. I can play as many games as I can in 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
After each game, I have to take a screenshot of my end screen.
What?
Yeah, I have to take a screenshot of my end screen.
What kind of fuckery is this?
And upload that screenshot into the Extra Life United Discord server. Who then I'm
sorry. I thought we had just established that they are full of money right now.
Well, it's more complicated than that because the way that they're scoring it. Yeah, it's not like Fall Guys aren't the one that's doing it, and Extra Life, it's not like, I don't know how you would do it. If you queued up the same 200 people or however many people there are that are doing it, I don't know how that would work because you can only have 60 people in a lobby. So I don't know, but basically they're going to have people counting points based on your placement. So If you get top 50, that alert sound was not supposed to play in this scene, so I don't know how that happened, but thank you for the subscription, CC. I don't know how that alert came through, but it did.
What sound just happened?
The alert sound, the subscriber noise came through.
Let's make it go again.
That wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. I lost my train of thought. So if you get top 50%, you get 1 point. If you get top 20%, you get 3 points. If you go to the final round, you get 5 points. And if you win the crown, you get 10 points. And then whoever has enough points gets to move on to the next round. And then the top 16 people after the end of the second round will get money towards their Extra Life campaign. So that's how that's going to work.
This is complicated.
It's very complicated. I'm glad I'm not the one doing the math, but
you just gave me a headache.
I mean,
it's not your fault.
I'm playing Fall Guys a lot. The other thing is that it has to be on PC. So I bought Fall Guys on Steam. And I think I'm just gonna rock the pink bean. I'm gonna continue practicing on PlayStation, which may not be the right thing to do.
No.
I'm gonna use the DualShock 4, so it's not gonna be a different experience.
Oh.
Like in my hands. I'm not gonna use a mouse and keyboard. But I'm gonna rock the pink, but just the generic bean skin.
So what you're telling me is that for this tournament that you're going to be involved in, where there's a big cash prize, you're going to have a Smurf account.
That's going to be a Smurf. Yeah, I'm smurfing it up. Yep.
All right.
Yep. Got it. I don't think that there's any MMR system in Fall Guys. I don't think that there's any like behind the scenes number. I think you're just queuing into complete randomness.
I think you're absolutely
But on the off
correct.
chance that there is, on the off chance that the Fall Guys system employs some sort of hidden metric, I'm going to game it. I'm going to smurf it.
Hey, if you're listening and you're part of the people who make that system, please ignore what just happened.
I didn't say anything. What are you talking about?
We were talking about how they stole our color scheme.
Yeah, what's up with that? I mean, to think gamers in the year 2021 who like the neon aesthetic. What's up with that? Anyway, this is the Quick Time Event Podcast. This is a chance for John and I to get together each and every week to talk about all of the nerdy things that we love, which I might have said already. But to double back, we got a lot to talk about.
Because then you inhaled really hard.
I did.
I thought we
got so much to talk about this week. We're not going to talk about everything on the show, Doc. So I know that it's very intimidating, John. Don't worry about that. We're not going to get to all that. However, there's some important stuff we need to talk about, mostly related to PlayStation, but there's also some Nintendo stuff in here, some Xbox stuff in here. Some hate stuff in here.
Love it. Love the hate.
You love to see it. But before we get to all of that, what have you been up to? It's been a longer period of time than normal. I know you've been up to stuff, so let's talk about some stuff. I have been up to
stuff. Let's start. I am no longer, I have redeemed myself. I am no longer a liar. I did finally start Final Fantasy VII, the remake. And I am having an absolutely delightful time with it. A divine time.
A divine time.
So whenever you told me about the combat being kind of like the Tales game that I'm playing, I was a little concerned just because it was kind of confusing to like, they just kind of threw you into that. I feel like this game did a very good job at explaining how to do the combat system. And not only that, but like, I was kind of annoyed in the Tales game that whenever you got into a fight, you wouldn't just walk up to the enemies and fight like right where you were. You'd walk up to them. It would trigger like a little transition, and then you'd be like in a pretend little circle where like you couldn't leave the circle. You had free range of motion within that circle.
It was essentially a Pokemon battle, except it was active time. Like you would enter this backdrop of a world that would it should look vaguely like the outside, but sometimes it didn't match up one for one. And then you would be confined to this little space.
Yes. So that's how that was. So I really like that they don't do that in Final Fantasy VII. But my God, the fucking music in this game, it's so beautiful and amazing. And like, it's probably just going to continue to get better because I've only heard probably like 4 songs really at this point.
That soundtrack, if you looked at the soundtrack on, I bought it. It's on, I think it's on Spotify now. On iTunes though, the full soundtrack I think is like 3 discs. It's so many songs.
It's $36. Yeah. So that would make sense. I looked up the vinyl as well because I've started to pick up some more video game based vinyls. I've actually got 2 behind me that aren't on the wall. I gotta figure out a place to put them. But I found it and I was like, oh, I want to get it, but also it's like $100 because it's like a 4 record set, so like 8 sides, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is a lot of music. But yeah, no, the music's absolutely amazing. Just the way it all looks, it obviously they did a very good job making it graphically updated from the original. I have so many questions. And I know that I'm not going to get any answers, possibly in this entire game of the remake. I'm probably going to have to wait.
Yeah. There's like, it answers nothing, really. Like,
I figured.
There's like a few things that it answers, but literally in Final Fantasy VII, this is the introduction. This entire game is the introductory area of Final Fantasy VII. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. And I don't know, how many chapters are you in? What was the last story beat you just had?
So the thing that I left off on was I just jumped off a train and we're going to Reactor 5.
With Tifa and Barrett?
We're on Plan E, as they called it.
Okay.
Does Barrett, is he going to constantly do sing the little classic Final Fantasy anthem?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. He's done it twice so far and I'm like, oh, this is charming, but if he does it too often, I'm going to get annoyed.
Yeah, I mean, Barrett's not really in your... the other great thing about this game is that it constantly varies up who's in your party, and you don't necessarily get to choose.
Sure.
So, I mean, Barrett's only in your party for probably a third of the game, something like that.
Okay. A third of this game or a third of the whole game?
This game, yeah.
Okay.
I love what happens immediately after Reactor 5. Now, I have played the entire game. I don't expect you to have an answer to this question, but I am Team Aerith. I like Tifa a lot, but I'm Team Aerith. Also, Jessie's an underdog. I mean, Jessie is like...
I like Jessie. Yeah, she's great.
She is.
She's so peppy.
She's
so positive in this horrible world.
Yeah, she's pretty great. But Aerith is the one that I ended up liking the most.
Sure.
And so after Reactor 5, after that little mission you're on, that's probably my favorite part of the game, is the next probably like 4 or 5 chapters.
Well, based on what you just said, I'm assuming Aerith is going to become relevant again. Because so far she has given me a flower and introduced me to horrifying invisible shriek demons and then left.
There's just so many great moments in this game too that it's so good.
But yeah, I am really enjoying myself. It is, I mean, regardless of what else I play this year, it is going to be in my top 3 for game of the year.
Where did I end up?
No questions asked.
Where did I end up putting it? Was it 3 for me last year?
I think it was 2 for you. I think I mixed it up because I thought that it would be 3, but I think that it might have been higher.
Yeah, it was top 3, but the other 2 were The Last of Us Part 2 and Persona 5 Royal. So it's like, it's so good. It's so fucking... It has no good... It has no right to be how good it is. Like, when you say you're remaking a game, when you compare it to the other remakes that have been out, like, you look at the Crash one, you look at the Spyro one, you look at Ratchet and Clank, and it's not even in the same universe. It's totally built from the ground up to be this thing that...
They just took... As far as I know... It feels like all they took was the story and the characters. Like everything else, they were like, nope. All the character models, everything, like obviously how the characters look is
they went from having like 6 polygons to having 6 billion polygons.
Yeah. But like it really does feel like, and that was something that I was thinking about. Was the story, the story hasn't changed at all? Like they didn't polish it up? Because I suspect that the game was obviously it's heralded as one of the great games. And like to do that back in the day, you had to have a great story. So I assumed that the story was great, but like I wasn't sure if the story was going to hold up to storytelling today. So did they go and polish it or not really? They pretty
The
much left
major
it
story
untouched?
beats are all the same. The major story beats that are happening, like you're going under to Reactor 5. That's a thing that happens in Final Fantasy. Like the major story beats stay true. It's everything that happens in between that has been added. Because again, Midgar in Final Fantasy VII, the original one, was 2 to 3 hours long max. Like it was not very long. It was mostly battles.
That's insane.
And so like everything that's happening in between, all of those little moments, all of chapter 3, I think, is that the one where you are in, I can't remember the name of it, but you're in like where Tifa's bar is and you're like doing all those side jobs and stuff.
Oh yeah. Killing all the rats.
That's totally like original. That was not in the game at all. But like all of those little moments where it's like, okay, Cloud and Tifa clearly have this backstory and like you start to find out about like their past and their childhood and all of those little character moments between just like how Barrett acts around his daughter and all of that stuff is totally original. And it doesn't change the story beats. The story is still exactly the same. It's just that they were able to add in all of this amazing content to flush out these characters deeper than they were able to before. Maybe even deeper than like any other game has been able to. Because when you think about it that way, like Final Fantasy VII, and this I guess is predicated on they don't end up changing major story beats. There's a lot of
Sure. I mean, we're only at one out of 4 games, possibly.
Yeah. There's a lot of conjecture on they're going to make major changes to the story down the road. But as far as this goes, like they aren't changing anything. They're just adding to it. And because they already have this skeleton, it's like they just like stretched out the skeleton super, super long. And now they're able to fill in the middle parts.
Yeah.
With a lot more. And somehow it doesn't get fucked up. Like usually that's a bad thing. Usually when a game developer takes a game that's maybe like really 15 hours long and they shove 30 hours of padding into it, looking at you, Borderlands, like it doesn't turn out as good as it could be. But the way that they did it really worked. And on top of that, they had to do that with the expectations. We're talking about Final Fantasy VII.
If you fuck this up, you're going to make so many people mad.
We're talking about one of the most beloved games universally of all time. No, there's like no, like on the level of Mario or the like Ocarina of Time, it's on that level. It's the same level.
Yeah. Just different system at the same time.
I don't think I've seen anybody, no critic, no just generic person on the internet that's like, this sucks. I missed the old one. That just isn't a thing that anyone said. The game's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. Like,
well, sure.
The game's not perfect, but they were able to capture the magic of Final Fantasy VII. They were able to stay true to Final Fantasy VII and make it relevant in 2021 in a way that brings completely new people like you and me on board.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel as I'm playing it, I'm like, man, I fucking missed out for the last 20 something years by not playing any Final Fantasy games.
Well,
but obviously this is one of the better ones. So
yeah, yeah. I really hope that obviously I want them to finish this one. I want them to, I don't know how many years it's going to take. I hope I'm alive by the time they finish this one. But I would love for them to give Final Fantasy IX this treatment too. That would be great.
That's my biggest concern right now is that like, what am I going to do when I get caught up? Because I don't want to wait, but I also don't want to go back and play the original.
I tried, and I couldn't get past I couldn't get past the introductory area. They do make it easy. Sure. If you get it on PlayStation, there are like cheat codes that let you run at 300% speed. You can skip.
Okay.
You can skip battles if you want to.
And then just curse yourself later for being underleveled.
There's like there's like god modes and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
So yeah, really good time with it. What else did I do? Oh, God, this is gonna be such a long intro. Fuck.
It's fine.
I watched 2 more Marvel movies.
Only 2 in a week and a half?
Only 2. I think I'm planning to watch one actually tonight after this, maybe? Question mark.
Okay.
Listen, I stay up late and I shouldn't, but I do. Because I don't think I had seen Civil War whenever we last talked, had I?
No.
So yeah, I saw Civil War and then I saw Doctor Strange. I was not ready for the way that Civil War went, and more specifically how it ended. I kind of was under the assumption for all this time that it was going to be like, here's this problem, here's the disagreement. Now we have to put our problems aside to deal with something bigger. Okay, we're all friends again. No. No, that's not how that went.
No, there's tea. There's
No.
there's salt. There's salty tea.
Yeah.
This is something that
it got rough.
It's like, and the ramifications of that are still playing out in like the show I'm watching now. And Falcon and Winter Soldier, this isn't a spoiler because Sharon Carter is in the trailers for it. So
Sure.
This is the first time we've seen Sharon since Civil War in this show. And she's been on the run for 7 years because she stole Cap's shield back to Cap. Like, she committed crimes and she's been on the run for 7 years. Yeah. Like, there's this it did not the Sokovia Accords, man, they really fuck shit up. That reveal, that Tony reveal, it's
the
hard.
Thing that happened.
Yeah, that thing that happened. That
where like they kind of played it off at the start of like, oh, he was just he did this all the time. This was his job, and then they were like, no, actually, this one that we keep referencing. Well, here you go.
Yet another thing.
Here's this
is still playing out. I remember all of them. He remembers all of them. He remembers everything he did. He just had no control over himself. And like that is still playing out. So these are like the major things that like. It's crazy that we can see this in a huge, big budget Hollywood thing where it's all tied together in the best possible way. Can you imagine just any of the DC movies trying to do something like this?
No,
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And somehow Marvel was able to.
I just want to know how, on one hand, you have a company like Marvel who's making these gigantic blockbuster films and having them all relate to each other and tie into each other and make coherent sense and be good. And then you have other companies like maybe
Detective Comics,
Project Red.
Oh, or yeah, sure.
Where you're making a single thing and somehow it's all disconnected. How? I don't understand how you can have all these like giant creative ideas and films coming out that are pretty much individual things. Yes, they all relate to each other, but like they're all led by different people. And somehow this comes out great, but like a single project of a single game falls apart. What? How do businesses work?
It's a mystery. I'm sure they would love to know.
Yeah. And then Doctor Strange, I had no experience with Doctor Strange before, but I really like Doctor Strange now.
I think Wong might be one of my favorite characters.
Oh, he was a good one. It was probably the second most different movie in terms of Marvel, at least for me as of right now. First being Ant-Man, just because that was obviously very different. But now that they've introduced like magic, this one was a little bit more unique, I'd say.
For sure.
Why is it always the rich asshole?
Yeah,
who
I don't
gets
know.
The powers.
Because listen, not everybody can afford to go to Nepal or wherever.
Yeah, right. That's what I was thinking. I was like, man, you're lucky you had the money to just probably charter a private jet to this place.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Famous surgeon, now a superhero.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's doing good, so he's doing good work. Benedict Cumberbund.
And another like perfect, like, I don't know. the ending boss battle or whatever completely defies your expectations too, with like the way that he handles it. Like
yeah, for sure.
You expect this big fight or something, and it's like no.
Yeah, you expect it's like, okay, you have super magic powers now. Okay, go fight this other super magic power guy who's like the origin of some versions of super magic powers. Now we're gonna do this instead.
Doctor Strange, I think, is probably going to be one of the most important characters in the MCU going forward. There's a lot of expectations on his sequel, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because of the theoretical, like the possibilities that movie could bring in. Like, does that usher forward the next phase of Marvel? Like, do we see the X-Men come out of that? Do we see like another huge, like truly universe shaping event?
Yeah.
Like, do we see Spider-Verse happen out of this? So do we see, who knows? But I think everyone's looking forward to his movie next is like the next big, I guess, MCU, defining movie. No one's expecting that in Black Widow next month or July or whenever that comes out.
Yeah, not really. Good stuff. Good stuff. Otherwise, I think that's been the most of it. One Piece, obviously, but that's just never going to end.
I have finally finished and platinumed even Persona 5 Strikers.
Congrats.
Let me give some general advice to anybody out there that might want to platinum Persona 5 Strikers.
Is it don't?
No, it's not that bad. So there's a trophy in the game that makes you level up what's called your bond to level 99. And to level up your bond, really the only way to do it is to fight enemies. If you were to play the game normally and not do any grinding, it would probably take you 3 playthroughs to do that. If I had to guess. There's the most used method to get that bond level up on trophy hunting sites is to grind at there's like a mini boss right before the last boss in the final dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
That method, if you just only grind that, will take you about 15 hours of grinding.
Jesus, that sounds
Don't
maddening.
do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Here's the good method. After you beat the game and you do all of the side quests, you get the opportunity to fight the Reaper. Once you kill the Reaper, you can then go on to New Game Plus. And in New Game Plus, you also unlock Merciless difficulty. Do that, play it on Merciless, and then get to the second dungeon. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard as long as you've like planned ahead with your personas. Go to the second dungeon and then fight the Dire Shadow in the second dungeon. Then it only takes like 3 hours of grinding, which is much more manageable. Plus, it's more fun because you're playing on a harder difficulty level. It's manageable. I was able to do it without any issues.
All right, that's fair.
But Persona 5 Strikers, great game. I'm glad I finally finished it. I don't have to play it anymore.
Kudos to you.
That took forever. Everything I said, I think, last time on the podcast holds true, where I liked it a lot. It's probably based on this year and what I know is coming out this year. It's probably going to land on my Game of the Year list somewhere. It's not going to be number one, though.
Sure. Just because the game style is not your...
It's not the game style. It's more just the game. It doesn't feel like a 10 out of 10 game in the same way that any of the mainline Persona games. I would never rate Persona 4 Dancing All Night as a... that game wasn't even on my Game of the Year list when I played it. So like
it's the Link's crossbow training
treatment. Yeah. This game not like a pinnacle in terms of game development. It's just fun to be around those characters more. If you go in with the expectation of, I get to spend more time with characters, great experience.
Nice.
Plus, like, the battle system is more fun than you would think it would be.
That's fair.
Then I started...
I forgot one thing real quick. I got my second win in Apex. Hell yeah.
How many hours you put in?
I don't want to look.
No. Fair.
Anyways, back to you.
I wanted to play. I wanted to play Disco Elysium: The Final Cut.
Yeah.
Except that there's like game-breaking bugs, which is weird because
How
the
old is that
game
game?
came out in 2019 and it ran perfectly on Steam.
Huh.
And I think, as far as I know, the Final Cut version, which was a free upgrade for anybody that owns the game on Steam, also runs perfectly well. It's just the console version of the game that has these bugs in it.
Interesting.
And it was nominated for Game of the Year in 2019 at almost every outlet. And I don't want to play a game like that caliber of game and have it have game-breaking bugs. So I decided not to play it. I'm going to play it at some point this year, but not until the patches come through, basically.
Sure.
Which it actually looks like they may have. They've issued actually like 2 patches in the last week, so it might be playable now. I can't confirm, but I'm going to hold off for a little bit. Instead, I picked up a game I didn't plan on picking up, but I saw a lot of people were having a lot of fun with it, so I decided to give it a go. And that is Outriders. And let me tell you, Outriders is like the best like gust of fresh air I've felt on my battle-hardened face in a long time. Maybe since the pandemic began.
Wow,
like,
that's high praise.
Like when you think about just like the games that I played last year, which was there's so many of them. And I can't remember how many games were in contention for me for Game of the Year last year. But I think I remember there being like 30 games and I cut 20 of them for my list. That's a lot of games. But I don't feel like, with the exception of maybe, I guess Fall Guys is kind of in this category. But like in terms of a game that's just fucking fun to play, a game that fully recognizes that it's just a video game, it just feels so fresh. And I don't know. I feel like all the games that I play recently have just been like, they take themselves seriously, which you have to do. Like as a piece of art, you need to take yourself seriously when you're creating a game. But this game is just like, you know what? We're big and dumb and we're going to have these big dumb set pieces and the character is just going to be big and dumb and overpowered and it's going to be a blast. And that's what the game is. It's definitely like interesting how it's set up gameplay wise too. So it's a third person cover based shooter. Think something like Gears of War, except you have powers like in Destiny. So it's Gears of War plus Destiny. Yes. It's not live service at all. So it's completely single player. The game I think is actually, it's not meant to be played single player, but all of the story beats actually are single player. Like the entire point of the game is like, you're this one thing. Like you're basically a god and
all right.
You're the only one that's like this. There are very few people that are like this. And there's like no narrative explanation for how there would be multiple people teaming up basically.
Okay.
And so like story wise, it's all meant to be played single player and it's actually really good playing. So like the difficulty is good, but then like the story is actually surprisingly good. Is what I was trying to get at. Is like the story is surprisingly good. The character is not just a generic, like a character. It's even like they're more fleshed out than even the Borderlands, like the Vault Hunters were. Like the Vault Hunters, when you're playing Borderlands, you're really just getting flavor for them. Like when they have funny voice lines when they kill something, you never hear them talk. Like if you're playing as Lilith in Borderlands 1, Lilith never talks to anybody, you know?
No.
But that's not the case in this. So like the character you're playing actually has a personality, which is nice.
you get to play as the original Borderlands cast from Borderlands 2.
Basically.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really fun. The premise is interesting. It's a really dark universe. Essentially humanity has fucked up Earth and
surprise.
A few people were able to get off of it, and they went and colonized a new planet.
Great.
And
Jeff and Elon.
They fucked it up immediately.
Oh, the next one's unsurprising.
Yeah. So, yeah, the universe is interesting. It's a video game that knows it's a video game. It's not going to win Game of the Year anywhere, but it's just fun to play. It has a really addictive gameplay loop. Probably one of my favorite things about it is the difficulty level. I think this is the same difficulty system that something like Diablo has, I've heard, where there's like world tiers. And so like you start off on world tier 1, which is easy. And as you play through that, you gain experience towards the next world tier. And then once you go to the next world tier, the difficulty goes up, but then also the rarity of the loot you get goes up.
Yeah.
And so as you keep playing, the difficulty goes up and up and up. And it's actually, it feels really balanced. Like at this point, I'm on world tier 8 or something like that. And it still doesn't feel like, I feel like I can get to the next one. It's never felt like I've hit a wall.
Sure.
So I don't know if that's the case for everybody, but it makes the world feel dynamic and it feels like you're working towards something too. It activates that monkey brain part of your brain where it's like, oh, I'm working towards a goal.
Love it.
So yeah, I like it a lot. There's some controversy, I guess, with some of the patches they're putting through. They've nerfed a class already.
Been out for what, 2 weeks?
Something like that, and people are upset about that. But it's like, well, first of all, it's not my class, so I don't care. And second of all, it's like it's a single player. Why are you mad about? Like, it's not like it's a competitive game or anything. It's not like you're playing against anybody. You're just killing mobs. So
that
I don't
is
know
weird
what that's
that they would nerf a class in a single player game.
It is weird. Borderlands did that too, where it's like they nerf like certain skills, and they also nerf like drop rates and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you care? Like, who is that hurting? You're not
making more money if you don't nerf it. Like,
yeah. I guess like if it's a game breaking thing, like if this class this one skill can beat the final boss if you use it once or something. Like if it was unintentional. But I feel like a single player game like that doesn't really need too much balancing.
No, definitely not.
So that's
Square needs to update their Outriders website, by the way, because it still says that it's coming out 4/1/21 and it still says pre-order now. I feel like that should be
Square. I have news for you. It's the 13th. It's been 2 weeks, Square. You can't pre-order a game that's out already.
What is Square Enix? How can they make a game that gives you a breath of fresh air, that blows me away with Final Fantasy Remake, and yet also come out with Balan Wonderworld? How?
Can I throw more at you? What about Avengers?
Oh, right.
What about Avengers? What about, like, what are they doing there?
How are they able to bat such a fucking polar opposite 50-50?
I really feel like there's some sort of divide, a cultural divide, most likely, between the Japanese arm of Square Enix and their Western studios.
Probably.
Because I don't know, like, and this I actually wanted to mention real quick too, but Outriders on launch day had, I think, like 2 or 3 times the number of players as Avengers did. So there's that too. But like, how can you put out Avengers, which is still broken and no one wants to play it, and no one's ever going to want to play it, and Balan Wonderworld, which is just a pile of hot shit. No way around that.
Not even hot. It's cold. It's hard.
And then you can put out Final Fantasy VII, and it's like just night and day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would love to know how.
It's not like Square Enix is, and it's really weird because it's so hot and cold for them on both sides. Because at the same time, Square Enix Japan they've put out not great games too. Like Final Fantasy 15 was okay, but it wasn't like an industry defining game. You look at the Final Fantasies between 10 and 14, really all, like, I guess 10, 11, 12, or sorry, 11 was 11 was an MMO, 12 and 13, but there were 3 13 games. I think there was like 3 Final Fantasy 13 games.
Yeah, that's, man.
12, 13, they weren't that, like, no one remembers them, or at least no one talks about them still.
The only ones that I ever hear talked about are Final Fantasy 7 and I think 9 and 10.
Yeah. 8 is like a cult classic. But
Sure,
7,
I've heard that.
as far as like the 3D ones, because they're like, I think 4 and 4 is really well regarded. What's the one? Chrono Trigger. I don't know anything about that, but that one people fucking love for some reason.
Yeah.
But like the 2D ones are its own kind of thing. But as far as 3D Final Fantasy goes, 7, 9, and 10 were like the golden age.
They're the perfect Final Fantasies.
Yeah, they were late 90s. They were like our childhood's games. Then 11 and 14 are the MMOs. 14 is still going fucking strong as hell. They put out the PS5 version, I think, just very recently, like last week maybe. So that game is still kicking. But everything after 10 was definitely like on the back burner compared to those games, at least. But like, so Final Fantasy has ebbed and flowed. Final Fantasy 16 has been announced for PS5. I hope that's good. But the jury's still out on that. But then you look at their Western studios, and they have just shit shows like The Avengers. But then they can also put out Tomb Raider, and they can also put out Outriders, which is doing well. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Have a standard, Square Enix. Just have a standard.
And don't bring your top down to meet that standard. Bring your bottom up, please.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I guess I would rather have it this way than just everything be mediocre from them.
Yes, I guess.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of compromise.
It really is. Like, you're putting out a stinker like fucking Balan Wonderworld, and I guess that's okay for you. Like, I still want the story. I want the Jason Schreier story into that game. I know we're never going to get it because it's a Japanese studio, which they never talk. But I want that story. I want that story.
Good luck.
All right, let's move on to the news because there's a lot to talk about. Honestly, I don't know what we're going to talk about tonight. I know one story, which is PlayStation, because PlayStation is in the news a lot recently. And we'll see what we get to after that.
All right.
So let's start with the story that fucking just drove everyone off a cliff on Friday last week, which is a scoop from actually Jason Schreier, Mr. Scoops, that The Last of Us is getting a remake coming for PlayStation 5. Now, I'm not going to read Jason's article, which is really well written, and you should go read it. There are a couple little sections that I have beef with, and I think we'll talk about it here a little bit. I'm going to read Polygon's article only because Polygon's article is abbreviated and it just hits on the key points.
It's short.
So, Owen Good writes, fans will be happy to hear The Last of Us is getting a remake for PlayStation 5. But some developers, I feel like I need to interject immediately. Narrator voice. They weren't.
Yep.
But some developers inside Sony aren't happy with how that came together or what it means for PlayStation's vaunted first-party development going forward. The account by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier describes how Sony's Visual Arts Service Group, a support-oriented studio located in San Diego, took on a PS5 remake for 2014's The Last of Us with approval, but without much support from above, then saw it handed over to the original developer, Naughty Dog. So here I want to again interject. This San Diego team as Visual Arts Service is the team that I've been referencing for years at this point. That's like there's been rumors that they're working on Uncharted. The San Diego team is working on Uncharted. I think only because Uncharted's wrapped up and Naughty Dog's not attached to it anymore. That was like, duh, they're working on Uncharted. Turns out they weren't. They were working on The Last of Us. Until it got handed back over to Naughty Dog. Friday's report describes a senior leadership at PlayStation obsessed with big hits, critically as well as commercially. For example, Bloomberg says Sony Bend's studio pitched for a sequel to 2019's Days Gone was rejected, and part of the studio was told to assist Naughty Dog on 2 other projects, one of them a new Uncharted game. The Oregon studio is now working on a new game of its own, Bloomberg said. Naughty Dog has been a Sony-owned studio for nearly 20 years, helming 2 franchises, being Uncharted and The Last of Us. They have generated multiple award-winning titles as well as television and cinematic adaptations. In one light, deference to a proven hitmaker, especially where its own IP is concerned, is reasonable. But Bloomberg Story notes that the Visual Arts Service Group took the initiative to develop The Last of Us's PS5 remake, but only got provisional approval to continue with it, and no budget to hire more developers to make it. The report comes on the heels of a major shift at Sony's development arm in Japan. In February, Sony Interactive Entertainment reorganized its Japan Studios team, effectively doing away with the developer and the talent behind smaller, more experimental PlayStation games like Ape Escape, Knack, Gravity Rush, and Loco Roco. What remains is Team Asobi, the developer behind the Astrobot series, including the built-in PS5 showcase Astro's Playroom. That move signaled a shift more modestly sized games developed in Sony's home territory to blockbuster Western franchises like God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon, and The Last of Us. Adaptations are on deck for The Last of Us as an HBO television series and Uncharted as a long-awaited feature film that is set to premiere in February of 2022. Naughty Dog co-president Neil Druckmann, the writer and creative director of The Last of Us and its sequel, is an executive producer on the HBO series. So, key points of this article. This visual arts service group in San Diego was developing The Last of Us as a remake. The remake was basically taken out of their hands and given back to Naughty Dog. Sony Bend pitched Days Gone 2. Sony rejected Days Gone 2. Sony made Sony Bend help Naughty Dog with the PS5 or with the Last of Us remake. And I think that was it.
This is so confusing.
There's a lot to unpack here because this article doesn't stand by itself, is the key. This article is just the latest in a line of PlayStation decisions that are reflected on the other side by Xbox's decisions, which are very recent, and you have to read the tea leaves together.
Yeah.
So this article, I'm trying to figure out how I want to talk about this because there's so many layers to this. This is just one piece. You have to look at what Xbox has been doing to also put this into context. So you have Xbox acquiring Bethesda, acquiring partnerships left and right from other places.
Buying Discord, buying everything.
And then you have Sony, who shut down Japan Studio, essentially, said no backwards compatibility, is closing their PS3, Vita, and PSP stores, and is now essentially like stuck on Naughty Dog. Is what this article makes it look like. They're stuck on Naughty Dog. They're like, Naughty Dog is our top tier premier developer, which they're not wrong about. But by this, it makes them look like they're stuck on their property and they need to just keep pumping out these two series. Is the sense that the article gives.
Yes.
I don't know that I buy that. See, my thing is you look at each one of these as individual things. And I think this is the key. You have to look at these as individual things. However, you also have to... It sucks because you have to look at each one as an individual business decision. However, you also have to think about the overarching picture that it's giving your company. So let's look at each one of these things individually.
Okay.
Sony doesn't have backwards compatibility. They didn't build it into the PS5 like I thought that they were going to.
Yeah, I thought it was a sure thing.
PS4 is backwards compatible. I think it's reasonable to assume at this point, going forward, it's going to be forwards compatible forever.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable to assume because it's all based on a PC architecture at this point. The PS4 store is on the PS5. Why would they make it different somewhere down the road? That doesn't make sense to me, but
that only makes sense in Nintendo land.
Right. But you look at the decision not to have backwards compatibility for those older games. I don't think that it's wrong as a business decision because it's proven. There's by research, people have done consumer research on this, that people don't use backwards compatibility. It's one of the most requested features and the least used features.
Sure.
So, you're not, even though you're angering a vocal audience by not including backwards compatibility, You're not angering a large audience. So, like, as a business decision, that makes sense. It's not the decision I want, but it from a business standpoint, it makes sense. Now let's move on to the store closures. Again, from a business decision, it makes sense. You don't want to have open accounts with all of these people who only publish games on the PS2. You want to close those accounts. You want to consolidate your store down to just the active consoles. I understand that as a business decision. Optically, it doesn't look good. What was the other thing I said? The other instance? Oh, the closing Japan studio.
Yeah.
The Japan studio has put out. I like Gravity Rush a lot. It's a cult game.
Yes,
There's a
so
small audience for it that really like that game.
There's a very large audience.
There's not. There's really not. This sold nothing. It sold peanuts. Japan
I was one of those peanuts.
Japan studio has put out nothing of critical note in a decade. Like Team Eco putting out Shadow of the Colossus, those were PS2 days. Team Eco has done. I mean, the game they put out on PS4, The Last Guardian, did not sell well. Studio Japan has not been at the forefront of game development in a very long time. Until Astrobot came along. So what does Sony do? They close Japan Studio and they keep the part that actually was doing stuff that people actually liked and was critically and commercially successful, which was Astrobot. So from a business standpoint, it makes sense. Also, you have the idea of PlayStation becoming a Western company. Obviously, they still want ties to Japan, but again, that studio wasn't putting out anything of note. So as a business decision, it makes sense. Even this, to me, every piece of this article makes sense as a business decision. Let's start at the top. Last of Us Remake. Do we need a Last of Us Remake?
No.
No, we don't.
No, we do not. It came out less than 10 years ago.
It came out less than 10 years ago, and it got a remaster on PS4.
That's the other thing.
You can already buy it for the PS5 through the PS4 store. So that's not even a question. However, what if I told you there's the HBO show coming up? And this is a perfect time to get people into this series that have no connection with it.
So milk it.
This is the exact same thing they did with the Ratchet and Clank. The Ratchet and Clank movie came out like the same month that the Ratchet and Clank remaster came out. They had that game there for people that the kids that watched that movie and wanted to play the game. To get new people onto the series, it did the job. It got me onto that series.
Sure, yeah.
So to have The Last of Us and have a new game, let's say The Last of Us Remake, and this is conjecture, but it makes sense, to have The Last of Us Remake launch at the same time that series is coming out, or maybe immediately after that series comes out, it gets people into the series. Like, okay, you watch the HBO series, here is a brand new version of The Last of Us, and they call it The Last of Us Part 1. And then you already have The Last of Us Part 2. Do I agree with them remaking the game? No. I wonder if it would be a $60 game. Ratchet and Clank, when the Ratchet and Clank remake came out, that was a $40 game. So I don't know that they would make a $70 Last of Us remake. We'll find out eventually because I think that game is in production. But from a business standpoint, again, it makes sense. Because you're not telling me that people aren't going to want to buy that. Then you look at the next piece of that, which is the studios who are making it. Sony San Diego, not Sony San Diego, the Visual Arts whatever group, basically have it taken away from them. I don't know that part. That I'm curious about. What happened there? Because we don't have that part of the story. We only know that they worked on it and then it was taken away from them. So Sony saw something they didn't like there. I can't comment on that because we don't have any information.
Well, yeah, we don't have any flies on the wall.
Sure. So they send it back to Naughty Dog. Which is fine, I guess. But then you bring in this Sony Bend piece. And you have Sony Bend, who was pitching a Days Gone 2, have it rejected. That sucks for them. Like Days Gone was an IP that they built up. And I'm sure a lot of them, I mean, they pitched the game. They wanted to make a sequel to it. I don't think that this by itself indicates Sony's, as these articles are saying, like obsession with high profile, like the blockbuster release kind of things by itself. Because Bend, I feel like I'm talking a lot. I'm trying to get everything in order, and it's like the wires are getting crossed.
It kind of feels like you're I forget. I think it's Charlie from Always Sunny.
I do feel like
with
this
his conspiracy board.
Yeah,
conspiracy
it does feel like a conspiracy
all
theory.
The strings are leading to. I mean, it all makes sense
when you peel it back. That's the exact same. That's the thing. Is it makes sense when you peel the layers back.
Sure.
That's not to say though.
Looking at it as a whole, it's like, oh my
exactly.
God.
It sucks. It sucks. Like and we can talk about that when we get. Let me get through the rest of this. So Ben Studio, they pitched Days Gone 2. It's rejected. That sucks for them. I'm sure they wanted to make the game. I'm sure it was going to be what they wanted to do, but it got denied. I don't think that by itself is indicative of Sony being like, no, we want only Naughty Dog, because like they had their pitch rejected. What else were they going to do? Like they were temporarily put on the Last of Us project to help Naughty Dog for a short amount of time. And now the key piece is they are working on a new game. They're working on a new IP. If Sony really only wanted these major blockbusters, they would have sent them to work permanently on The Last of Us. They would have had them do another Uncharted game like they had them do Uncharted Golden Abyss or on the Vita, or they would have done some other franchise like Jak and Daxter or Infamous or something. Like there's a lot there for Sony to give them, but they didn't. They're allowing them to develop a new IP. So I don't think that the Bend thing is fair to say that Sony is like obsessed with the idea of The Last of Us or like the Naughty Dog product, because they're letting them do something else. It's just in the meantime they were put on this project to help because they had their pitch denied. They had no work essentially other than like building up the pitch for their next idea. So again, from a business standpoint, that makes sense.
At this point, the only thing that Sony I can say is obsessed with is making money.
Sure. I mean, they're a company. That's what they're all doing.
Yeah, they're a company. That's why they that's why they do what they do.
Microsoft didn't just decide to buy Bethesda for $7.5 billion because they thought, oh man, I really want a Vault Boy bobblehead and I can't get one, so I'm gonna do it this way. No, they did it because Bethesda's gonna make them a fuck ton of money.
Yes.
Was there anything else I missed in this article before I go back to the larger point, which is
I don't think so.
That this sucks. Having these stories run back to back to back sucks.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look like the PlayStation hasn't had a win other than, again, their console selling like fucking hotcakes, which is great. That's exactly what they want. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because none of this news is actually impacting. They don't
give a shit.
Yeah.
Because they're making bank.
But as a PlayStation fan, as a hardcore PlayStation fan, this sucks because they just are getting negative press after negative press, and it's stuff that it's not optically good. Like as a PlayStation fan, I didn't want any of this. I want backwards compatibility, even though again, it's probably not a great business decision. I don't think we need The Last of Us because we already have The Last of Us. I understand all that.
Yeah.
It's just like when you put all of this together, it sucks. When you compare it to what Xbox is doing, it's even worse.
Oh yeah.
And that's the key, is you're comparing it.
Everything comes across as greedy corporation, anti-consumer almost.
Yeah. And so there's been
take advantage of your consumer.
There's been so much talk on the internet the last couple of days about, is this PS3 era Sony? Is this like overconfident, you need to get a second job to afford the PS3 Sony?
Yeah.
I don't know that it is, because Sony's always been a business, like they've always been like this from a business perspective. They have had instances where they've had a lot more communication because that's the way their president or CEO, or I don't know what Jim Ryan's title is, but like Sean Layden was a very personable person. He was out at E3. He has a public Twitter account. Like he was a public person in the same way that like Reggie was a public person.
Yeah.
But you don't see Doug Bowser out doing stuff.
No, he's off in his castle trying to plan how to steal the princess.
Sean Layden was much closer to Phil Spencer than Jim Ryan is.
Yes.
And you looked at the people that Sean Layden had around him, like Shuhei Yoshida, who's still there, but in a much more backroom kind of role now. And you had Adam Boyce was another one, where you had these people who were recognizable faces of PlayStation. And those people either just aren't there anymore, or they've changed roles and are no longer in like communications type positions. And not having those people just makes the company look like a suit. It's the company that's just, we're here to collect your money. Thank you. And I honestly, in my heart of hearts, as a PlayStation fan, I don't think that that's their philosophy. I think they truly are still that gamer-focused company. I think that they're just like Xbox is taking that gamer-focused company to the next level. Yeah. And Sony has regressed in the communications department. Now, this could all change in next month or whenever, when E3 time comes around and they drop major news. Everything could change at the drop of a hat. Like, it's who rules the news cycle for a week. And it's just so happens that Xbox has been ruling the news cycle for a long time. And again, when you compare that to all this negative stuff on a PlayStation, it just looks bad.
It is a bad look, yes. It is not what you want. Which, I mean, you'd think somebody over there would want to address it.
Yeah, and that goes back to that communications piece. Like, I don't know that Sean Layden would have responded. No, you know what? He would have. He would have, because he did. When Fortnite decided to go multi-platform, and Phil Spencer was like, yeah, immediately, let's do it. And all of a sudden, Xbox had crossplay. Sean Layden was like, okay, you know what? He came out on Twitter and was like, okay, we need to look into this. This is clearly something that gamers want. We can't give it to you right now because we don't know how it works. We need to figure it out, but we know we see you, we hear you, we're going to take it into consideration. PlayStation has just been silent for the last 4 months.
Yeah.
As all of these news stories drop.
You have all these companies doing what each other's doing, but they need to do their own thing. Because, like, why can't Sony... So Sony's being really quiet about these things. And then you have CD Projekt Red, who's being very vocal about their things. You need them to switch their communications right now. Not internally, God no. But, like, where CD Projekt keeps on coming out with these public statements and stuff and like releases and just talking to the customer and consumer. That's what Sony needs to be doing. And CD Projekt needs to shut the fuck up and get their shit together.
Yeah. I want to go back to this for just a second, but I do have a little bit of an issue. And maybe this is the fan. You tell me if I'm being a fanboy about this.
Oh boy.
In this article that Polygon wrote, in Jason's article, the headline is Sony, what's the headline? Report says The Last of Us, blah, 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 remake coming, but at a cost to PlayStation morale. I think that Jason's article was something similar where it's like they're obsessed with major first-party exclusive games or whatever, however you want to put that. What they're really saying is they're obsessed with Naughty Dog. They're obsessed with the idea of blockbusters.
Yeah.
Now, I mean... You're not wrong, because that's what PlayStation first-party games have been for the last decade. But at the same time, how are you going to sit there and say that when they put out Dreams last year? And not a month ago, we heard that Jade Raymond's new studio, Haven, they're funding their next game, which is an indie studio. We have Kena, the Bridge of Spirits coming out. We have... like all of those other indie games they talked about at the PS5 reveal, like Stray, Goodbye Volcano High. There's just a ton of like indie games that they're supporting and are putting on their platform and like marketing. I don't think that's true. I mean, yes, they're obsessed with being successful, but I don't think them canceling Days Gone 2, not even canceling, rejecting the pitch for Days Gone 2 is like this big brain, like, oh, we see PlayStation changing their game development philosophy. I think more likely it's just that Days Gone was a zombie game, and they already have a zombie game in their portfolio. That's true. That is the major fucking huge blockbuster game. It's the biggest game. It's The Last of Us. Like, I don't think they need Days Gone 2 to compete, or they want Days Gone 2 to compete with The Last of Us. And at the end of the day, Days Gone 2 was nothing to write home about. It's exactly the same issue that Gravity Days has. Or Gravity Rush. It's Gravity Days in Japan. Gravity Rush has.
Oh, okay. Well, what issue did Gravity Rush have? Oh, just
no one bought
peanuts?
it. Yeah. The issue is that nobody bought it. The issue is that, yes, there is a vocal audience who liked Days Gone. When you go on Reddit and you look at Days Gone, you look at the comments of the last couple of days, all of the people on there have been like, yeah, this was really surprising. Like, I really enjoyed my time with this game. It wasn't like, The Last of Us. That's exactly what it is. It's like if the thing that the game is known for is that it wasn't amazing, you probably want to try something else.
Probably.
Especially when you already have a game in your portfolio that is doing that exact same thing.
Yeah.
Am I being a fanboy about that?
I can't say yes or no, because this is just such a fucking spiderweb of issues all at once.
There are a lot of issues here.
Man. One of the things that I'd like to know, and I don't think it said in this article, but like the subtitle was that blah, 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 leading some to quit. How many quit over this?
Yeah, there were like 2 or 3 leads at Bend quit.
Okay. It's the way that that's phrased, it makes it sound like there was like a large division of at least a studio.
No, I mean, the issue is
like 2 or 3 high profile people.
Right. And the issue is Sony Bend. And this is actually one thing I do agree with, is that Sony hasn't treated Bend with respect ever. I don't know what Sony Bend, what did were they Siphon Filter? Is that their series? Like back on the PS1? I can't remember what Bend used to do, but basically at some point in the early 2010s, they got relegated.
Yeah, Siphon Filter. You nailed it.
Okay. So Bend has been around for fucking ever. Like Bend should be on the level theoretically as Naughty Dog. They've been around since the PS1 days. In the early 2010s, they got relegated to the Vita to make Uncharted Golden Abyss, which was a fucking great game, by the way. Like it's as much of an
studio.
It's as much of an Uncharted game as any of Naughty Dog's Uncharted games. It's really good. So they were on the Vita, and Uncharted Golden Abyss didn't sell great because the Vita didn't sell great. And so, like, the fact that they got Days Gone as like a brand new IP on the PlayStation 4 was exciting because it was Ben coming back to AAA, like, home console game development. And then Days Gone comes out and it's mediocre. They pitch Days Gone 2, it gets rejected, and then they get put back on a Naughty Dog project. I think that's what made those people quit. It's like, you know what? We got relegated to Uncharted, and then you didn't like the Uncharted game that we made because it didn't sell well, because the Vita didn't sell well. And so then we got to make our own game, but you didn't say it was good enough. So now we have to go back to making Naughty Dog stuff. I think that's the issue. Which is an issue. I'm not saying that's not an issue. They need to treat Ben with respect because that studio has been around for a long time.
Do you want a list of their games developed?
Sure.
It's pretty short. So going back to the PlayStation 1, Bubsy 3D.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah, but
Siphon Filter 2, Siphon Filter 3. Moving on to the PlayStation 2, Siphon Filter the Omega Strain. Then PSP/PS2, Siphon Filter Dark Mirror, Siphon Filter Logan Shadow. Where was I for Siphon Filter? What the fuck?
You've never heard of that?
No.
Oh, well, I mean, you never had if that's what it is. You don't own a PlayStation.
Yeah, but there were still major like PlayStation titles that I'd at least heard of.
Siphon Filter is like it's a stealth FPS, or is it an FPS? It's a stealth shooting game.
Okay. Then moving on to the PlayStation Portable exclusively, Resistance Retribution.
Okay.
Which somebody else did Resistance, right? So
yeah,
they
Resistance
essentially just had to take care of something that
is Resistance
for them.
Who made Resistance? Is that Insomniac?
I don't remember. And then PlayStation Vita, you were right, Uncharted Golden Abyss and Uncharted Fight for Fortune. So like those 3 games in a row, they did somebody else's.
Which was great. I mean, Golden Abyss
game.
was a great game.
Oh, yeah.
I played Golden Abyss after I beat Uncharted 3, and it was great.
And then Days Gone. What a list.
Resistance
was Siphon Filter.
Resistance is Insomniac, by the way.
Okay.
So Insomniac and Naughty Dog, they're relegated to making basically the spin-off games for those 2 studios. But I mean, that I understand why an executive or a creative lead would want to leave.
Oh yeah, for sure.
After something like that, even if it was only on a temporary basis. I get that, and that's totally fair and totally valid. And if that's the decision you needed to make, then that's what you needed to do. I don't blame them one bit for that.
No.
But again, Bend is now off. This storm has passed. Bend is now off making a new game and a new IP that they have created. They're not relegated to Naughty Dog stuff. They're working on their own thing. So, I don't know. They successfully pitched a new game. So Sony's still, willing to listen. We don't have a situation where they're being dictated the games they need to make.
Yes.
So, I don't know.
We'll see how it all plays out.
So here's my question.
They get a win too.
Here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
That was my question. What is the win? What do they do? How does this work? Okay, let me pull in this next story, I guess, because it doesn't look like wins are coming.
Uh-oh. I mean, here's the thing. They're taking all the hits and losses in the PR department, but they're taking all the wins in the money department.
They sure are. Yeah. So this
I think what might be happening is the whole Nintendo syndrome of they are getting public outcry, but they're also getting a ton of money. So their negative behavior is being reinforced with a positive. Like, yeah, sure, some idiot on the internet is yelling at them, but also they just made another $1 billion.
I just as a fan, I'm trying to sit here and I'm trying to think of
what it would take to turn this around.
I don't want to say turn it around, because even after all the moves that Microsoft's made in the past 6 months,
yes,
it's still unproven. Game Pass is still, for the most part, unproven. I don't remember who it was, but there was an article. I should have pulled this in. I saw it yesterday and I didn't copy the link down, but basically it said that the major games coming from Microsoft aren't going to be ready for like 3 or 4 years. Like that game that Rare's working on that looked really weird that we saw last year. I can't remember what it's called, but that game's I
vaguely remember
that game. They're still working on the core gameplay loop. They're like still trying to figure out what that game even is.
Oh no.
Perfect Dark isn't going to be around for a long time. The Bethesda stuff that they just bought, like fucking. What did we say last year when we were trying to figure out when Elder Scrolls 6 was going to come around? Like 2025 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
This year even. What does Microsoft have other than Halo Infinite? Right. Which jury's still out on if that's coming out. Like, Microsoft is still playing the long game, which is something we've been fucking saying for years.
Yeah.
Microsoft's is this gonna be the E3, John? Is this gonna be the E3?
Their year. They have the Brown syndrome. This year's their year. It's got to be, right.
It's like, show us the games.
Are they going to shut down?
I don't know.
And yet they just went and spent the most money.
Right. This has to be the year they say something. But this is what I'm talking about. Like, Xbox still has not said anything of, like, they've done a lot of shit, but they haven't actually showed us the fruit of that labor somehow. But Sony has. We know what Sony's working on. Like, I don't know they need to turn anything around because they haven't lost yet.
I didn't mean turn it around as a company. I meant as a PR nightmare.
Oh, but I don't think that the idea of turning around as a company is necessarily wrong, though, because like the groundwork that Xbox is laying could create a reality if Sony doesn't change course eventually, that they find themselves in a bad place.
Oh, they're going to be in a hole. Potentially.
So I'm just gonna mention this article in passing, but there's rumors going around that Kojima is being courted by Xbox, either as a studio acquisition or as a partner. More likely, just having funding for his next game.
That would be interesting.
Which would again be another fucking thing. A win for Microsoft, loss for Sony.
A lot of Microsoft's wins have just been Microsoft wins. They haven't been like somebody else's loss. This would 100% be a win in one and a loss in the other. Especially
because Kojima's been such a great partner with Sony. Like the Metal Gear games have always been, the Metal Gear Solid games have always been PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah.
Sony funded Days Gone, or not Days Gone. Sony, they did fund Days Gone, but Sony funded Death Stranding. And even Kojima used Guerrilla's engine to develop Death Stranding. So they used a PlayStation engine to develop Death Stranding. So like Kojima's always been close with PlayStation. And if his next game is not going to make it to PlayStation, that's a definite loss for them.
Yes.
Again, I'm just trying to sit here and I'm trying to think what can they do this year to win the PR war of 2021? Is there anything they can do to win the PR war?
God, to win the whole thing?
Not the console war. Because I think they are winning the console war, to be quite honest.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. But I mean, like, there's a difference between to turn around their own PR versus to win the PR war against Xbox. Because to turn their own PR nightmare right now around would be a challenge a little bit, but like it's definitely doable. But to come back and like turn this around and overtake everything that Xbox and Microsoft have been doing, like, it's one thing to dig yourself out of a hole. It's another to dig yourself out of a hole and then climb a mountain.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think it would require them to dig themselves out of the hole and then Microsoft to fall off the mountain. They would have to do something like something.
There needs to be an equalizer.
Sure.
For sure.
But as far as like concrete things that PlayStation, I think maybe crawling out of the hole is a better way to put it. Maybe not win the PR war, but to put them back in a positive light. Like at the end of the year, because right now their karma's negative. They're at like negative 1,000 karma. At the end of the year, for them to get to plus 10 karma, I think that like what I want to see from them is for them to talk about backwards compatibility, for them to talk about game preservation and to have a plan on how to address that, because they have so many games that are about to just be lost to time itself. And so if they can come out at E3 time or whenever and say, we have a plan, or for them to even come out and say, you know what, this is something just like fucking PSN name changes. This is something that we understand is a necessity. We haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
We need to figure it out. We haven't done it yet. So give us some time. I want that. They need to do that in some way. If they don't,
they just need to be open and talk to their fan base about the things that their fans are currently upset with.
Yeah. They need to listen and they need to respond.
It goes back to what you were saying at the start. They need to communicate.
Because at the end of the day, they don't have the coffers that Microsoft has. They don't have the war chest of Microsoft, who just is thinking about buying Discord casually. I'm just going to casually buy Discord. They just bought,
Just a
what the
couple
fuck was
$billion.
it that they just bought a couple days ago for a fuck ton of money? They just bought something else for like $10 billion.
Already.
Some
Microsoft, okay.
I don't know. They're spending so much money. Sony does not have that. They just don't.
Yeah. Not many companies do.
So it's just completely unreasonable to expect them to go out and to buy anybody on the scale that Microsoft is going to be able to. That's totally unreasonable.
Yeah.
But if they come out and they communicate that, you know what, this is our plan, you know, we understand that, you know, they need to address not only the fans' concerns. I guess this is also a fan concern, but like they also need to address their competitors. I think they need to acknowledge their competitors and I don't know how you do it without conceding, but Game Pass is important. Game Pass could still fail. I don't think it's going to, but they need to have something. They need to respond to that in some way. Because if they don't, it's going to be too late eventually. If it gets to dire straits at the end of this generation and Microsoft is just like Game Pass has 50 million subscribers, they're dead in the water. They need to get out in front of that. And I don't know what that is.
Would it be a pro or a con if they decided to play nice and allow? Didn't Microsoft at one point want to put Game Pass on like everybody's
in the way that Phil does, where he just like Phil Spencer is a very interesting man because he knows exactly what to say in every situation to min-max Xbox's fucking like perception, I guess.
Sure.
Because he said at one point, you know, just like casually offhand, like, yeah, we'd love to put Game Pass. I think the word he said was like anywhere that would have it.
Yeah.
And like, that's enough. Obviously he meant like, we'd love to have it on PlayStation, but obviously PlayStation's never going to entertain that. And it's so ludicrous that, you know, I'm saying that and we would listen to them if they decided to call a meeting, but like, it's never going to happen. I don't need to worry about that.
Sure.
You know?
Just saying something off the cuff that like, you know, you can get away with because there's not really
and there's no downside to it because then he gets to come off as the good guy. He knows PlayStation is just going to ignore it and not respond to it. It's just like it's so easy for him to say something like that. I don't know if that would be a win or a loss though, because I mean, again, I don't think there's any fucking reality where PlayStation would entertain that.
No, probably not.
But at the same time, they have to recognize that PlayStation Now is not doing the job. And they need to alter something to compete with that. Whether it's rolling PlayStation Now into PlayStation Plus, whether it's... I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. But they need to do something.
Yeah.
I guess maybe this is a good place to put this article, which is the last piece of PlayStation news we'll talk about today. And that is... that Sony just gave Epic a fuck ton of money too. Although not as much as, $7.5 billion. But that's because Epic is worth, I think, maybe it even says in this article, Epic's worth something like $30 billion or something. Thanks to Unreal Engine and Fortnite.
Yeah.
But anyway, Epic, which is not a publicly traded company, opened another round of investor funding. And, PlayStation gave them like $200 million.
Chump change for our friends at Xbox.
Really is. Yeah. $200 million. Fuck, man. But
I spent that on accident in a weekend.
Right? But Epic has come out, like, even when they showed off Unreal Engine, is 5 the new one? Whatever whatever the one that just launched is, or they're about to launch, or is whatever. Like, that was running on a PlayStation 5. They've been in cahoots with Sony for a long time. Sony invested in them again last year because they're also involved with the movie side. I think we talked about this on the podcast where like Unreal Engine is being used in Hollywood film development for CGI.
Yeah, we did
and
talk
stuff.
about that.
And so like Sony is interested in that side of it too. It's like, a win-win for them to invest in Epic.
Yes.
But like if Epic and Sony decide to do a little mushy, like maybe we'll get something that could compete with Game Pass.
You could.
I don't know that there's
see.
a reality where Epic would like cut Microsoft out of that, but like, I don't know if because Epic, there's articles about Epic losing a bunch of money last week for the free games given away on Epic Game Store. But like, it's not really them losing money because they're doing it as an incentive to get people to use the service. So like, whatever. But like Epic is giving stuff away anyway to people. They're also, heavily discounting Unreal Engine for game developers, and I think it's even free for like certain level, like game developers of a certain level can use the service without paying for anything.
Yeah,
like they're being really friendly towards the industry. So like maybe if Sony and them could get into bed in some way.
Sure, they could.
They already kind of have. So maybe there's something there. I don't know.
We'll see.
Lots of PlayStation.
Lots and lots of PlayStation. Not very much that you want to see, though. In the big picture.
Yeah. Frustrating. Let's move on to Nintendo, who has a couple of interesting things to talk about. I feel like... I don't know. I have a new camera angle. I for those watching the podcast, the video podcast, I bought a new desk. And so I had to rearrange my room because my old desk was a corner desk. This one is not. So I have a new angle for the camera over here.
Hit your mic.
My mic is now on this side. It used to be over here, but now it's over here. I just feel out of sorts.
Everything's different. You're not at home.
No, this is, it's learning. What's that quote about like humans can find home wherever they are or whatever? It's like, they can make any place feel like home or whatever.
Sure.
I just haven't found it yet. So I feel
this desk
off kilter.
is a desk.
Let's talk about something shitty first, which is,
surprise, Nintendo did something shitty.
Oh, no, they didn't do anything shitty.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's just a shitty situation, which is that Nintendo president, Shuntaro Furukawa, warns of possible Switch stock issues in 2021 due to semiconductor shortage, which also probably does not bode well for John's PlayStation prediction, which is that the stock shortage for PlayStation will be wrapped up.
Yeah.
Because Switch stock could be an issue this year because they don't have enough fucking parts. Is essentially I don't need to read anything else because that's the story.
That is the story.
Now, if they don't have enough Switch parts for Switches.
You know what they do have enough, though? They've got enough Switch Pro parts.
That was my question. What? What does this mean? Are we gonna...
Guys, we said that we weren't gonna come out with a new better model of the Switch, but this whole semiconductor shortage happened and we just had to swap out parts, so we figured, we're in there, we might as well make some improvements. So here's the Switch Pro.
Do you think that this shortage is... Are they going to be 100%? Let me get this out of the way. They're definitely not going to have enough Switch Pros to begin with.
No, God, no. A new Nintendo console?
Yeah.
Especially if it's just a better version of the one that is selling like hotcakes still.
And then add on top of that what everybody is assuming, which is that there are going to be exclusive Nintendo Switch Pro Plus games or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, there's not going to be enough of these things. But then also throw in the fact that there aren't enough regular Switches. And what are we really looking at here? Is it even worth... This is what I said earlier this year, where maybe they're playing their cards close to their chest on this new Switch, because maybe it's not going to be worth it for them to put it out this year.
Yeah, no, I could... Based on this and based on the whole, the fact that we're still in a global pandemic, I wouldn't want to make any promises either.
Especially if they have, and I don't, in my heart, I don't think they're going to do this, but let's say they put out Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and it's a Nintendo Switch Pro exclusive game. Do they really want that game to come out and for there only to be 250,000 consoles in the wild?
Yeah, that's the thing. Your user base would be shit, not because people don't want it, just because you don't have it.
So if there's not enough stock for these things, I don't know that it's worth putting it out.
Yeah,
because it only seems like it's getting worse too with these semiconductors. So like with the position that Xbox and PlayStation were in last year, I think that even though it was really hard to get your hands on them, they were still able to manufacture a reasonable number of consoles because they had planned it for however long. And we were still sort of in the early part of the pandemic when that manufacturing really started. But Nintendo's a year into this pandemic. And then on top of that, the semiconductor shortage has been going on for a year now. Is it getting better or is it getting worse? I don't think we know.
I agree. We definitely do not know. Is that what was on that the big boat that got stuck in the Suez Canal, just full of semiconductors?
I saw that whatever country that runs the Suez Canal, they impounded the boat and they're charging them like, I forget if it was $900 million or $900 billion. They were basically like writing them, or they were billing them for that because that's how much money was held up.
There was a
commerce.
website that was, I think it was just called as theboatstillstuck.com or something.
Yeah.
And this person, you would go there and it would just say if the boat was still stuck. I think it had like a live GPS feed of it or something. And then it had an active tally of how much money of global trade was lost because it was stuck for X number of times. I don't know where they got the numbers from, but like, yeah, it was billions of dollars.
So, yeah, not looking great for Switch stock. Although they did put out a cool new blue Switch today.
Yeah, right? Man, they're playing, they cannot come out at E3 and say, hey, we're coming out with a Switch Pro. Literally 2 months after they said, hey, here's this new color for the Switch Lite. They can't. This isn't even like a collector's edition thing for a game.
It's
this
just
is
a new
just
SKU.
a new color.
Yeah. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. Like, I don't know. Why would they? Like,
there should be a law that says,
Lite,
hey, if you can't do this.
When did the Switch Lite come out? I guess it would have been Christmas. It was before Christmas 2019. So maybe fall of 2019. So it's been around for maybe a year and a half. But like, that's not fair. What if you got the coral Switch Lite, but blue's your favorite color? Now you have to go and
you were
buy
like,
a
man,
new one.
I'd love to get a GameCube blue one, but it's just not here.
Because again, it's not like a limited edition version. It's not like when Xbox comes out with a Cyberpunk 2077 Xbox One.
Yeah.
Or when PlayStation does the Spider-Man PS4 or whatever. Like, it's not that, because that's only a limited number. It's a collector's item, basically.
Yeah,
this is just a new
If they came out with a Legend of Zelda edition of the Switch, I would at least consider it.
Sure.
Even if the Switch was going to be outdated in the next year, I'd at least give it some thought. Painful thought, but thought.
Why can't they make Joy-Cons in that color? Do they? Because they only have the weird blue, right? They have like that neon blue for the color.
Neon blue.
Do you have the gray or the colored one?
I got the gray.
So do I.
Not by choice.
Mm-hmm.
It was just purely out of, because I got mine day one, so I just got what they had.
Gotcha. I did want the gray one because the colored one, like, I mean, I guess it's unique looking. It looks too much like a toy.
Sure,
I don't like the shade of the colors.
I don't have an issue with my gray ones.
Oh yeah. No, but I want them to make Joy-Cons that are that color, because the Joy-Con colors they come out with are just like these weird hues. It's like
they're the Apple colors.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that like all the Apple accessories and like phones and stuff, it's never a normal ass color except for their Project Red version stuff.
I don't know how to describe the shade, but I know what you're talking about.
It's the weird. It's like the. I forgot to mention I have been watching Portlandia.
Mm.
It's the Portland colors where it's like it's the weird colors that are just weird because they want to be weird.
But the Switch, like even the other Switch Lite colors, like the yellow one, which Janet has, is actually yellow, but like coral pink, really coral is the color you're going to go with. But this blue Switch Lite is just blue. It's not any kind of weird shade of blue. It's just blue.
Yeah.
And I don't understand what the hell is wrong with Nintendo for the fact that they still have not put out any fucking atomic purple merchandise in the last 15 years.
The clear stuff.
Where the fuck is atomic purple, Nintendo?
That was such... You have an entire generation who now has disposable income, who longs for an aesthetic. And what do?
I would buy
blue.
Everything in atomic purple. I had an atomic purple 64 controller. My Nintendo Game Boy Advance was atomic purple. I think that the Advance was the last thing they did in atomic purple.
I think you're right.
Maybe there was a GameCube controller. I don't remember.
I don't think
but the SP definitely did. SP was when the SP came out, it was black or blue. Those were your choices.
Or gold. There was a special gold edition.
Okay. No atomic purple though.
No.
Bring that back, please.
Please and thank you.
You'll get lots of money out of me.
Hey, Nintendo people who are listening to this tiny podcast, please listen to us when you make your business decisions.
Hey Reggie, go connect back to
You're retired from GameStop now. You've got time.
Speaking of Reggie, actually going back, we talked about Sean Layden earlier. Did you see what Sean Layden did after all of the news from last week?
No.
Basically, everybody was after all of this bad news from PlayStation. We're going back to PlayStation. There's a lot of people that were blaming Jim Ryan for all of it. And it's like, oh fuck, Jim Ryan's such a terrible president. Blah 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 blah. I really miss the Sean Layden days. And then they were like all saying like nice things about Sean Layden, and Sean Layden was just liking all of them and he was retweeting some of them. I don't know if that's just like because he was happy that he was having a good day on the internet, or if like he was maybe subtweeting PlayStation. But yeah, Sean Layden was having himself a day.
That's really funny.
So going back to Nintendo again, now let's go to an interesting piece, and I'm curious to see your thoughts on this as a Nintendo fan.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo to focus on Nintendo to focus on new IP for future Switch games. This article comes from Tech Radar, written by Samuel Tolbert. Expect more franchises in the future. Nintendo is known for its household names and pillar game series such as Mario, The Legend of Zelda, and others, with each franchise taking multiple forms across numerous 2D and 3D games. New intellectual properties are introduced here and there, such as Splatoon, but by and large, Nintendo sticks with evolving its known entities. Still, that could change in future, as a new report indicates that Nintendo is beginning to focus on major new IP for the Nintendo Switch. Speaking with Nikkei, President Shuntaro Furukawa, this might have been the exact same article. This might have been the same conversation that he had, that we just talked about concerning the transistors. But I myself am looking at and studying various forms of entertainment. In the future, we will focus on creating new game series as well as long sellers such as Mario and Zelda, he said. Adding later that we are constantly building up ideas for new consoles the market is expecting, but there are some things we can't do now due to technology and cost constraints. Furukawa also noted that Nintendo believes the Nintendo Switch is in the middle of its life cycle right now. Considering that the Nintendo Switch launched in 2017, this means players should expect at least another 4 years of support. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, wild.
Right now, Nintendo has some games lined up to release for the Switch later in 2021, such as Mario Golf Super Rush and a remaster of The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Looking further ahead, however, several current announced major titles don't have a release date or even a vague release window. Bayonetta 3, which I feel like has been
talked about for like 6 years now.
At least.
Yeah.
A sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Metroid Prime 4 are set to be huge titles, but currently very little is known about them. Other games such as Splatoon 3 and Project Triangle Strategy are tentatively dated for 2022, though game development is uncertain right now as the repercussions of the global pandemic continue to impact various pipelines. It's possible, of course, that Nintendo is saving some game reveals for the rumored 4K Nintendo Switch. So investing in new IP. What do you think about that?
I am very split. Conceptually, I love it. I would love for them to, because what they're great at just being creative. That's I think what's gotten them to where they are today is just letting the juices flow and doing what they do. However, they have so many they have so many franchises that they are doing nothing with that might not have done well, but it might have been because of where they put them. Or they just needed to completely like they have characters that are recognizable, but maybe they put them in a game format that wasn't great. Or I don't know. And it's probably just the whole vocal minority thing on various forms of social media, but like why don't you make a good, and that's the key word. You have to make a good one of these games. But like where's a good Star Fox game? I mean, they are working on Metroid Prime 4, but like it's been forever. Kid Icarus is another one that I see people talk about a lot. Has a Donkey Kong game come out?
Tropical Freeze, but that was almost 10 years ago at this point.
Yeah, like you have these giant recognizable franchises. What are you doing with them? Because you're only focusing on, at this point, Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, which isn't even technically yours.
Yeah, Animal Crossing,
and I guess Splatoon is now your big moneymaker.
Is it?
We did. I don't know. I read a stat somewhere, and I'll try to find
Honestly,
it. Honestly,
I expect Animal Crossing. Does Animal Crossing already sell better than Mario?
Maybe.
It's
got such a vast appeal.
Three Houses has to have sold better than Odyssey. It had to have.
Probably.
I wonder if like
but the point is that they have like, let's say that they have 20 major franchises. They are only effectively using about 6 of them. And I get that like you want to keep Kirby and Yoshi to like more family friendly games. So maybe you're not going to see the massive success that you do with your other more established IP. That's fine. But like a third of your games are successful. Maybe a third of them you've relegated to be a very niche thing, but a third of them you're just doing nothing with. And while I support you going and making these new IP, because like you're gonna probably come up with some great ideas that could join that top echelon of your games, are you just gonna let those other ones sit and die? Like, can we get a fun F-Zero game? Is that just out of the? Is that an illegal question for me to ask? Like, what are you doing with it? It's yours.
It's kind of interesting because Nintendo has been. What new IP has Nintendo introduced in the last 20 years? So since 2000.
It's actually
Splatoon, ARMS, Xenoblade.
Snipper clips.
Okay. I'm not going to count like the weird. Is Snipper Clips first party?
I think so.
Wow. I was going to say like I'm not going to count like 1-2 Switch or like Wii Sports or like that kind of thing.
Sure.
Although Miitopia is something that they're still really pushing for some reason. But like I can't think of any major like series other than the ones I just mentioned. Really, Splatoon and Xenoblade are the only two that come to mind of any note. I think Fire Emblem has had a resurgence, but again, that's an old game. It's just the series has become more popular.
Yeah. I'm looking at it. So like
I guess my point is Nintendo is not. This is weird for them to come out and say they're focused on this. Like, what does that really mean? Are we talking about a new game like ARMS every now and then, or are you changing?
Or are they
course?
looking for the next Zelda?
Sure.
Like, what are they doing? What are they trying to accomplish?
Are you talking about switching to like what Sony has done for a long time, which is shelving all of that? Like Jack and Daxter is gone, like we're done with Star Fox. Star Fox is just, in the past. It's time to move on. What are we talking about here?
Yeah. Please provide some clarity. Which they won't do.
What would you want out of a new, like, because when you talk about like games that Nintendo can make, like what could they make that would be, because the other thing about Sony or Nintendo's portfolio is that I feel like all of their properties are different.
Yeah.
I mean, like you have sort of a platforming genre which all evolved out of your NES or your NES and SNES series, like Mario, like Donkey Kong, like Yoshi, like Kirby.
Yes.
You could find a way to make another platformer, I guess. But like you already have a racing game with F-Zero. You already have a space game with Star Fox. You already have an adventure game with The Legend of Zelda. You have a strategy game / RPG with Fire Emblem. Like what else could they make? Like what is missing out of their portfolio? I guess is what I'm saying.
I don't know. That's the thing. They have it all. It's just that they underutilize so much of it.
Because I also don't see them coming out and trying to put out something like The Last of Us. Or
no, God, no, please don't.
They're not going to make anything realistic. So we're talking about Nintendo's style, I think, is what we're talking about.
I agree.
We're talking about what's coming to Smash next.
Yeah, I don't. I want them to stay the kid-ish, family-friendly game developer that they are. Because nobody needs a third. Nobody needs them to re-enter the console wars and be like, you know what, we had a great time off doing our own thing, making just stupid amounts of money, but we want to be direct competitors with Xbox and PlayStation again. Don't do that, please.
I don't think they would.
I don't think they would either. But again, I don't know what is missing from their portfolio that they feel that they need to develop new IP for.
Even like ARMS feels weird to me. Like, I mean, I guess they don't have a Smash Brothers is a fighting game, but it's not a traditional fighting game.
Yeah.
So I guess that was missing.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
They're not missing anything other than the realistic games, which are mostly first-person shooters, it seems.
Which honestly, like Metroid could fill that pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah, it did back in the day.
Yeah. But Metroid doesn't sell shit, so maybe that's the issue.
Man, I've seen so many just horrifying stats where it's like, hey, this one game sold more than all of the Metroid like series. Not just the one game, like the whole series, the whole franchise.
Animal Crossing New Horizons probably outsold the entirety of the Metroid franchise in one day.
Probably. And since has multiplicately broken how much Metroid has sold.
4 years into the Switch? Really? We're 4 years in? We're halfway through? That seems
so weird.
So insane to me.
Let's see. I just looked up a list of game types. Let's see if Nintendo has...
Can I throw something else at you real quick?
Sure.
Wasn't Metroid Prime 4 announced at E3 2017 after the Switch came out?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's been 4 years since that game was announced. And we have no idea. They did scrap it
after like 2 years.
Is that game coming out this generation? Is that coming out on the Switch?
It has to. It has to. Okay, so we've got strategy game, Fire Emblem.
Sure.
We've got role-playing game. Does Nintendo have any RPGs? They kind of killed all the RPGs.
They have partners. I feel like that's always been like a partnership thing. Like in the early days, it was Final Fantasy. Now Shin Megami Tensei is filling that whenever that game decides to come out. But no, I don't think they have anything first party. Fire Emblem sort of fills that, but not really.
Simulation game. I don't think they need to delve into that personally.
No, but I guess sports aren't really simulation games, but they have all the Mario stuff. They have Mario and Sonic.
That's next. It's sports video games. So they're covered in sports.
Sure. They got racing. They got multiple racing games actually.
Yeah. Puzzles. I mean, they
Pokemon Puzzle League.
Yeah. That'd be a weird revival after Pokemon Snap. Action adventure games. I forget what the fuck the difference is between action games and action adventure games. The Game Awards told me, and then I forgot.
Yeah, it literally doesn't matter.
So action game, action adventure game, adventure game.
They're good.
Do they have
those.
What?
I said they're good on all of those, I think.
Oh, yeah. Casual games, obviously they're fine. Party games, they literally have Mario Party. Fighting games, Super Smash, and now ARMS. Rhythm games, it's a very niche genre of game. I don't think they necessarily need it, but
it's another one they partner with. Like Just Dance is one of their biggest games every year. Like they got that, I think.
And they even had that. They had like a Mario version of Just Dance at one point.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah. RPGs. Didn't I already say that? Yeah, I did. Racing games. We know we're covered. I don't know what the fucking art game is.
They got Mario Paint. Mario Paint and what was that? No, that was
educational games. They had Mario Math or whatever the hell it was. Was it Mario Math? What was it?
I don't fucking know.
Mario Keyboard.
The moral of the story is they have something in every category. It's just what do they want to start doubling up on? What are they going to start doubling up on? Because I mean, you think about what Nintendo does well, and it's the platforming stuff. That's the stuff they're most well known for. Like, I mean, Zelda aside. And there again, people like Metroid, but not very many people like Metroid.
It's again going back to that concept of it's a very vocal minority.
Yeah. The stuff that people love Nintendo for is Mario. Yes. It is Super Smash Brothers. It is Mario Kart. It is now Animal Crossing. That's a simulation game, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. You're not wrong. I mean, it feels weird to say you're right. But
so I don't know. Like I would think that probably means more platformers. It's just like Nintendo just feels it's like when Disney tries really hard to like force a new IP out or something. Yeah. It's like when they try and make whatever movie came out after Frozen. Like Frozen came out, it's like, oh man, this is like a fucking Disney classic, right? Whatever movie came out after that, they like, I'm sure tried to make like a ton of merchandise and like, we're going to have the walk around character at the parks. It's going to be great. And it was probably just okay.
100%. We'll see what they do.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to talk about. I think that's a good place to start.
There's a real quick, since we're still on the Nintendo train, there is a Nindy showcase tomorrow, I believe.
Oh, I did see that.
20 minutes of probably disappointment.
They also stopped using the Nindy title. Now it's Indie World Showcase.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And they've confirmed, I guess, in a weird way, that the Directs and the Direct Minis are both alive.
I guess. Yeah. I've liked these. The Indie World ones, I feel like there's always like one or two things that grab my attention. Last year it was like
but they're also in the montage.
It is. That's true. Yeah, you got to look for the montage because that's probably where the good stuff is.
Oh man. If I could will into existence some news about Silk Song.
Where the fuck is that game? What comes out first, Silk Song or Metroid Prime 4?
Silk Song, no question.
I'll hold you to that. If you like what you heard on this week's episode of the Quick Time Event Podcast, you can find us live on twitch.tv/QuickTime QTE plays every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also find us on all of your favorite podcast services all around the internet and on YouTube, where you can find the podcast in its entirety and broken out topic by topic, day by day. You can find me on Twitter at Josh Clasen. John is on Twitter at John Kaminko. Come join us for a quick time event plays Persona 4 Golden this week on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, usually on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Also join John and I on Saturday as we play Overwatch for 12 hours. Does it sound different if I talk this way compared to talking this way?
A little bit, yeah.
In your ears? Okay. I'll make sure that I talk this way then. I just realized that. So that's going to be it for this week. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully Microsoft doesn't go and buy fucking Steam next week, or this weekend rather, because I'm tired of this conversation.
Yeah,
so I want to talk about something new.
Can we have Microsoft sell something?
That'd be cool. Yeah, can you just I don't know, fucking sell an IP that you're not using or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
Give Nintendo brute force. What if Nintendo just started to develop brute force?
Oh, perfect. Excellent. Love it.
That's the way it goes. All right. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. We will see you all next time. And yeah, have a good night.
Peace out.